is not fun at all. And when Joe asked me to talk about it, I go, really? At the Rotary Club? I mean, but then, you know, I learned from my friends at the table here that you guys like shame and scandal, so I guess I fit right in. So what just happened at 10 o'clock today? There was a press conference. At the press conference, Mr. Jovi Rivera, the former director of BBMR, Mr. Art Ilagan, the former director of Revenue Tax and currently director of, I think, real estate and finance, whatever, still at Revenue Tax, Mr. Richard Angelan of whatever development company he has, Mr. Jerry Titano was there, Rick Duenas, CPA, a whole bunch of really high-end people basically came out and said, you know, the Archbishop is not telling the truth. And I'd like to give you the backstory of this, just in case, and because I don't want it to be Tim Rohr talking. It's never been Tim Rohr talking. The JungleWatch blog, junglewatch.info, actually I've been blogging for many years at a blog site called themassneverends.com, where I just post stuff about the Catholic faith and, you know, that kind of thing, and it's had some traffic. But I had the JungleWatch blog just as a way of keeping my issues separate, because I wanted to comment on government issues. And as of July 16th, 2013, I think I had all of 343 views. And as of today, this morning, I think I looked, it was somewhere close to 720,000 views, and averaging 10 to 15,000 a day just now. So there's a lot of people interested, and it's not just Guam, it's worldwide, because we are dealing with something that's affecting the world, the church worldwide, and it has been for many years. It's just that it's really coming to a head right here in Guam. Guam is ground zero for what is really happening. So this isn't just a local spat, it's actually a huge international, worldwide spat. The reason why it's focused on here is because this particular group that has made inroads into Guam through the Catholic Church has the Archbishop as one of its underlings, one of its members. And this Archbishop is the only bishop in the world that's actually in this group. So anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. What I'd like to do is give you a little bit of the backstory, because right now the news, it's a very long story. Go to JungleWatch and start reading. I even put at least a couple portions into a book. The whole thing started with Father Paul last year, when the Archbishop fired Father Paul. Well, for those people that don't know, the church has laws. It's called canon law. And in those laws, there are protections for priests and for us, for lay people. The reason why there's protections is because you know, there have been bishops throughout the centuries who have been drunk with their power, who have abused it. So the church in its wisdom has put in protections that you just can't go willy-nilly messing around with people. It doesn't matter if they're priests or Catholics or whatever. And a lot of people in Guam don't understand. They think it's the Archbishop you have to obey. Well, that's a bunch of BS. You don't. So Father Paul's canonical rights as a pastor were violated. He has rights. If the Archbishop is going to remove him, there's a due process involved. And he has to follow the prescripts of canon law. Archbishop didn't pay attention to that. He just simply fired him willy-nilly and then trumped up all these charges about him harboring a child molester, none of which is true, and it got worse and worse and worse. And right now it's a lawsuit that's in Rome, and they're still waiting for a hearing. But that started a year ago, and so the latest one though, so there's a book there called Target Equals Priest, and it has Father Paul's picture on it. It's an ebook, you can download it for free. And it catalogs the whole thing if you really want the real true shame and scandal. It's all cataloged there. But recently, of course, this thing exploded when the Archbishop went after Monsignor James Benavente, the rector of the Cathedral Basilica, who's much loved, much respected, and went after him viciously and went after him in the press. The Archbishop did not engage Monsignor personally. The Archbishop chose to go to the press and to defame and slander him in the press. But not only did he defame and slander Monsignor Benavente, he went after the other people that were involved in the finances of running the Catholic cemeteries and the cathedral. Well, those people were Art Ilagan, Joe Duenas, etc. So he chose a fight with people who know money. And they said, well, we're not going to go down this easy. So they just had a press conference at 10 o'clock and you can check on it. What I want to do, though, is just give you a real quick backstory, and then I'm just going to read some things for you, and then you can ask me questions after. At first, I would like you to hear in Monsignor Benavente's own words what happened with him and the Archbishop. And actually, when Joe called me a week ago before the storm, when I was supposed to speak last week, he wanted me to be sure that I had something that the press didn't have yet. He wanted you guys to have the scoop. So you do. The press hasn't seen this yet. So, you guys ready? I think it's the press people here. This is a letter from Monsignor James Benavente on July 28th, 3 days after he was confronted by the Archbishop. On Friday, July 25th, I met with the Archbishop and Monsignor David C. Kittigwa, the Vicar General, at the Chancery office. The Archbishop started the meeting by saying, I want to read to you what I read to the College of Consultors and the Presbyteral Council. This document made allegations of financial mismanagement on my part and on the part of the entire former Archdiocesan Financial Council, which included Monsignor James, Richard Untalan, Joseph E. Rivera, and Sister Stephen Torres. Among the most serious allegations the Archbishop alleged was that, one, the former members of the Finance Council had made an attempt against his direction to sell the property of the seminary for the purposes of paying off the debt of the Archdiocese. That's the old Axion Hotel property. Two, due to the findings of an audit of Deloitte, by Deloitte & Touche, the finances of the Cathedral Basilica and the Catholic cemeteries was deemed, quote, unauditable. Further, that these entities failed to provide necessary information to complete the audit, implying that I was not cooperative in intentionally withholding and hiding information. Anybody here from Deloitte? Okay. This concerns you. And actually, I'm appalled, really, that the Archbishop is actually publishing Deloitte's, really, private communications regarding this audit with the Archdiocese. It's just unethical in my book, but he's doing it. And I don't know if Deloitte's going to have any safe thing to say about that, but it says, given these allegations, the Archbishop removed me as Director of Catholic Cemeteries, removed me as Rector of the Cathedral Basilica, and dissolved the Archdiocesan Development Group that I headed, which oversaw several operations that, like the gift shop and so on. I protested the Archbishop and Monsignor David. Now make sure we understand which Monsignor David. There's the short one over in Ordot, and then there's the tall one that, I don't know where he's at. Well, he's the rector now of the new cathedral, but we call him Monsignor the Tall, the Tall David, okay? Anyway, so I protested to the Archbishop Monsignor David that these allegations are untrue, and in some instances, an outright lie. I pleaded with the Archbishop for the sake of the Church to allow me the time to respond to the allegations and clear my name. Okay, Monsignor pleaded with the Archbishop for the sake of the Church to respond to the allegations, okay, in private. The Archbishop, toward the end of the meeting, agreed to give me a copy of the allegations and give me time to respond, okay? On January 26th, not 24 hours later, I was greeted by Monsignor David and Father Adrian Cristobal, who's the Chancellor of the Archdiocese, with 3 decrees. Decrees are pretty heavy-duty documents in the Church. One which removed me as Director of the cemeteries, another removing me as a Rector of the Cathedral, and the third dissolving the Archdiocesan Development Group. I reminded them that the Archbishop gave me his word to provide me with a hard copy of the allegations and to allow me the opportunity to clear my name. Monsignor David stated that the Archbishop had decided to proceed with his decision based on the allegations he had personally read to me at yesterday's meeting. After numerous requests, I'm still waiting for a written copy of the allegations. I'm deeply saddened by all that has transpired. However, I'm encouraged and deeply moved by all the outpouring of support and prayers, well wishes, and so on. And he asks us to continue to pray for him. The following day, Monsignor David Kittigwa emails Monsignor James and says this: Dear Monsignor James, this is the response to your email to the Archbishop. As the Archbishop informed you at our meeting on Friday, July 25th, the decision to assign you to another post and appoint the Vicar General to the position of Rector, Vicar General is himself, Monsignor David, of the Cathedral, is pursuant to canons blah, 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 section blah, blah, motivated by the necessity to put in order several administrative issues signaled by Deloitte and Touche. Please be advised that the meeting scheduled for tomorrow will be rescheduled. I will let you know the date. Monsignor David writes back. Monsignor James writes back to Monsignor David. Thank you for your email relative to my rights to be furnished a copy of the written allegations of the charges against me. Still, no written charges against him, okay? Thank you. First of all, the Archbishop gave me his word on Friday, July 25th, that he would provide me with a copy of these allegations at that meeting. Towards the end of the meeting, the Archbishop handed you the letter of allegations and said, make him a copy. It was you, Monsignor David, who objected to giving me a copy as per the Archbishop's instructions. You then told me that you would give me a copy later that day. After contacting you a few hours later that afternoon, you informed me that you and Deacon Dominic Kim were meeting and a copy will be sent to me thereafter. To date, Monday, July 28th, 9:15 a.m., I still have not received a copy. Second, I am not aware of a scheduled meeting set for today. My only conversation with you and Father Adrian Cristobal while in my office to hand deliver the decrees, and we'll talk about these, and you said you will talk about these details later. Lastly, you stated in your email above that my removal was motivated by the necessity to put in order several issues signaled by Deloitte & Touche. I have no idea what you are talking about, as I have not seen this report, so I'm not in any position to reply to that particular statement. Monsignor David, these are serious charges levied against me, and it is my canonical right that I be furnished a copy of these allegations immediately. He was furnished a copy on July 31st when the Archbishop sent the allegations to the press. And I don't know if you saw that, made news. This is the first Monsignor James is even seeing anything about why he was removed. And the Archbishop went to the press with a letter from Deloitte to Archbishop dated January 8th regarding some irregularities in the accounting practices of the Catholic cemeteries, which Monsignor James oversaw. Most of you are probably financial people. So you know that if you got audited today, there's going to be some missing information that you have to come up with. So the letter on January 8th to the Archbishop was simply a request or a listing of the issues that needed to be addressed. It wasn't a condemnation of anybody. It was a letter of inquiry, a report saying we have to address this and this. We found this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. There was 5 things that were wrong or that they wanted to address and they were asking information for. The Archbishop used that letter from Deloitte of January 8th on July 31st to basically justify his firing of Monsignor James, but it wasn't just a firing, it was basically slandering and defaming him in public. This is really mean stuff. I know you're probably wondering, well, why is the Archbishop doing this? Okay, we'll get to that. So this morning we had the address by Mr. Joe Rivera, Mr. Richard Antolon, and Art Logan, and so on. I'd like to read to you what Mr. Joe Rivera said today, okay, in his words. So again, this is not Tim Rohr talking. And if the press wants copies of this, check my blog, or just ask me, I'll give you a copy. Good morning, my name is Joe Rivera, and with me today are Art Logan and Rick Duenas. Each of us was asked by Monsignor James for help to address and implement the accounting recommendations raised by Deloitte & Touche regarding the Cathedral Basilica and the Catholic cemeteries. So on January 8th, after that letter was sent to the Archdiocese and Monsignor James became aware of the deficiencies in the paperwork, he asked these men, Rick Duenas, Art Logan, and Joe Rivera, to assist him in getting the paperwork together, okay? We felt compelled to speak out after the Archbishop released a statement accusing Monsignor James of financial mismanagement. This is Mr. Rivera talking. Nothing is further from the truth. The 3 of us, along with the staff and volunteers of the Cathedral Basilica and the Catholic cemeteries, have been working diligently to address any accounting problems, and most, except for one, have been corrected. And that last one is ready to be corrected. And the reason why it can't be corrected is because the new administration, Monsignor David, confiscated all the documents, so they can't complete the work. Key staff have met periodically with Deloitte & Touche, and I'm glad somebody from Deloitte is here, several times over the course of the review. These meetings were fruitful and productive, and the staff has always left these meetings with the permission that Deloitte, or the impression that Deloitte & Touche was pleased with the progress and the amount of work accomplished. In fact, the Archbishop himself, in a letter dated June 26th, that's an important date because he fires Monsignor James on July 25th, but in a letter dated just a few weeks before, June 26th, addressed to Monsignor James a mere 6 weeks ago, acknowledged that much corrective action has been accomplished. In that letter, the Archbishop, based on the recommendations of Deloitte & Touche, instructed Monsignor James to have the financial statements ending June 30th, 2014, ready to be submitted by August 15th. Are we at August 15th yet? No. As we all know, Monsignor Benavente was never given that opportunity as he was removed on July 25th, 2014. I actually have a copy of the letter from the Archbishop. Everybody wonders how I get copies of these letters. But here it is right here, dated June 26, basically saying that, thanking Monsignor James for the corrective action that's been taken, and to please have the further documents ready by August 15th. I'm not done with Mr. Rivera's statement. Based on our review of the financial position of both the Cathedral Basilica and the Catholic cemeteries, it is our professional opinion that the allegation of financial mismanagement was not supported by the facts, and perhaps there were other underlying reasons for Monsignor Benavente's removal from both of these entities. The question as to what the real reason for Monsignor James Benavente's removal is what more and more people are beginning to wonder. Please see our attached memorandum, etc., etc. It's a very sad thing that we actually are having to decide either the Archbishop himself is grossly incompetent, uninformed, or he's just lying. We have no choice at this point. And it's not Tim Rohr and JungleWatch saying this anymore. It's some very big people. And the question is why? Why is he doing it? Well, I can tell you this. I knew almost 10 years ago that the Archbishop doesn't write any of his own letters. Anything that comes out with a signature on, he has not written. Especially in the last few years, he's only taking orders. There's somebody that's controlling the Archdiocese, and it's not the Archbishop. He's just been, either he's mentally not capable and he's just being used, or he's been completely bought and paid for. The person running this Archdiocese is a man named Giuseppe Gennarini, an Italian citizen living in New Jersey. In fact, there's a whole group of Italians that are controlling this Archdiocese. And you can find his name on the Articles of Incorporation of the Redemptoris Mater Seminary, public document, get it at Rev and Tax. And you will see that he and his wife and another Italian, along with Archbishop Apuron, are listed as members of the Board of Guarantors. Interesting, in the document, in the Articles of Incorporation, the articles give the Board of Guarantors full veto and approval power over the seminary. In fact, Giuseppe Gennarini gets to decide who's going to become a priest on Guam and who's not. That should be the Archbishop. But everyone knows that it's not. Everybody's known for a long time that it's not the Archbishop. It's a very powerful, multi-billion-dollar syndicate really being run out of Spain and Italy that is using dioceses like this worldwide, and they find certain places where they can get in. Guam is kind of a sitting duck for this for a lot of reasons. You know, one of the reasons I suppose is because we in Guam just have a history of welcoming people, and also a history of not opposing our Archbishop. And these problems have been known for a long time, but nobody ever exposed them. I became sort of semi-famous simply because I just started blogging about it. But all I was doing was actually reposting news stories that were already happening at other media outlets, and they began commenting on them. And then I began getting a load of comments and other stuff, and people started sending me stuff, you know, documents and all kinds of stuff. And everything that I've posted has been documented and irrefutable. So what's going to happen now? Rome will have to get involved, but let's face it, it's all important to us, but in Rome, they're probably going, where's Guam? You know, I'm sorry to say, but we're just not on the radar, you know? There is a congregation that oversees Guam. It's called the Congregation for the for the mission something, whatever, you know, it has to go kind of up a chain of command. But see, the bishop's only boss is the Pope. There's no cardinal, there's no nuncio. The fact that the apostolic nuncio was here a few weeks ago, he's just a delegate. He has no jurisdiction here. He just reports. So the only way to get anything to happen, a bishop cannot be removed except for anybody by the Pope. And I hear he's on his way to the Philippines. Maybe we can get him, make a stop, you know? Anybody got connections? You know? So unfortunately, what we have to do on Guam is we have to make enough noise to be heard in Rome. And that's what began happening today. There will be a lot of noise. And what happened today on the steps of the cathedral by these men is just the beginning. There is huge public protest being planned by big members of the community, big organizations, a whole, you know, public vote of no confidence. And my only hope is that the Archbishop, for his own health, resigns ASAP. And if anybody knows who I am, I was the guy going to bat for the Archbishop a couple years ago when he was being trashed in the media, when he was being singled out for harboring sex offenders and stuff a few years ago when SNAP was here. Remember all that? So people say, well, why did I turn on the Archbishop? He threatened Father Paul with he ambushed Father Paul. On January 16th, he called Father Paul Gofigan into his office, accused him of things that were not true and demonstrably not true, told him to resign immediately or, quote, face an arduous and painful closure to your assignment. That's threatening stuff. That's evil stuff. Threatening your priest with an arduous and painful closure to your assignment? I began to, well, it didn't take me long, because actually, back in 2009, when I was being asked to battle against SNAP and Senator Cruz's bills and all kinds of stuff, I became aware that I was just being used, that there was stuff that the Archdiocese had. They had some skeletons, and they weren't telling me about it, but they were sending me out to the media to do their battles. And when I found out about the skeletons, so that's their business, but I'm not going to battle for them anymore. But I kept it quiet. That was 3 or 4 years ago. It wasn't until this attack on Father Paul and his friends decided, Father Paul was he banished Father Paul from the diocese, and at the meeting, while Father Paul was at the meeting, the Archbishop arranged to have the locks changed on the parish. So when he got back to his office, he was locked out. And then he was told to vacate the rectory immediately. He was stripped of his ability to say Mass, and he was told to go find another bishop. I was sick. So I got mad. I'm still mad. And I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. But I better stop before I get mad in front of you. So if you have any questions, shoot. If not, I go back to blogging. Sorry for disturbing your lunch.
Any questions for Tim?
There seems to be a lot of addiction on your part, on the Archbishop's part. Do you see any amicable meeting or reading of the minds, or I don't know what you want to call it, compromise, or anything
Absolutely
of
not.
that nature?
So the ultimate goal for you would be to, if he were to resign,
Yeah.
then that would make everything.
It's just my opinion. I have no power. I'm nobody. It's just my opinion. But I say absolutely not, because I understand who the neo-catechumenal way is. I know who the Generinis are. I know the control that these people have in Rome and worldwide. And I know that how Guam is being used as Archbishop. So there's no reconciliation possible, and the Archbishop continues to prove it. So whoever's going to force him out, I don't know. It's not me. Yes, sir.
Sure, what you're saying is companies or people that give thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars to Redemptoris Matter in support of their mission, that the decisions on how that money is spent and what they do is not made here on.
Correct. And it's actually documented in the Articles of Incorporation who gets to make those decisions.
Now, are they a 501c3?
Yes, they are.
So being a nonprofit, that information or their audits, isn't that public information?
It's supposed to be, but I checked with Rev and Tax and they've never filed a tax return.
Past President Rob, you had a question?
Yes, just maybe perhaps for my ignorance, could you just enlighten us on what possible motivations of this group is in their involvement with the church? And maybe I'm not understanding what their involvement is, what their motives are, and how is that affecting our community here?
This is an organization that began in 1964 by a layman from Spain named Kiko Arguello. You know, us lay people, we can be good or bad. Ultimately, though, it's become a lust for power. This man has become extremely powerful, extremely wealthy. When you join the New Catechumenal Way, you're required to give 10% of your income. At a certain level, it's called the second scrutiny. You actually turn over titles to your properties. All the money goes to him. All of the vessels, the chalices, everything are designed and sold by his company. You have to use his stuff. Even the recipe for the bread that they use at the Mass has to come from Kiko. The songs have to come from Kiko. The prayers are Kiko's. The Mass is designed by Kiko. It's a huge syndicate, and there's huge amounts of money and power involved. And you know, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and he's an example. What they want from Guam, quickly, in the church, in order for, well, in the church is composed of men who are just as greedy and power hungry as any place else. And it's no secret that this bishop wants to be a cardinal. He wants a red hat. In order to do that, you have to actually score some points in Rome. And vocations are the currency with which bishops buy influence. Vocations, I mean priests and nuns. Since Archbishop Apuron became bishop, vocations completely disappeared from this island. Back when Archbishop Flores and before, we were turning out priests and nuns everywhere. A lot of you may have relatives, you know. But when Apuron became Archbishop, it dried up. He couldn't move ahead without vocations. This guy Kiko's really smart. He knows how to, he's a mind control guy. And so the whole thing was to create vocations. So that's why they established a seminary over here in Guam. They needed to have influence in Rome, you have to have a bishop who does your bidding. Well, they found it in Apuron, but they needed to give him some credibility, so they set up a seminary here, and that's why 99% of those seminarians aren't from here. They're being shipped over here from all these other countries, okay? And to bump up the numbers for Apuron so that they can buy the influence that they need in Rome. But those aren't native vocations. Those aren't from Guam like we once had. In fact, we know that a lot of the people, and I'm very sorry for the seminarians, but they're sent here because they couldn't qualify anyplace else. But this bishop they can control. They can get him to ordain, and he is publicly, not publicly, but privately admitted that there are certain priests that we now have in our parishes that he never should have ordained, and he's admitted it. But he was told and ordered to do so. So what do they want? You know, power, money, I mean, sex, I don't know, let's throw it all in, you know. Like I said, when this is over, I'm gonna sell the rights to Dan Brown and see if I can make some money on the deal. But, or maybe do it myself. Anybody want to star in the movie? Joe? Anyway, I'm probably taking too long, right? You guys give you indigestion already? So, hey, if you want to contact me, I'm really easy to find, junglewatch.info. I think I've got my contact information there and all that kinds of stuff, and Joe knows how to find me. So, and if you have any real estate needs, see Joe Rios. Thanks, Joe.
So is the Neo whatever? Is the Archbishop leading that movement?
No, the Archbishop. This is the problem. He's supposed to be in charge of it, but he's actually in it. He's one of the members. He's Brother Tony. He's not controlling it. He's just one of the members controlled by the catechist who run the thing. And the catechist, the big guy here, is a guy named Father Pius. He tells the Archbishop what to do, and Generini tells Pius what to do. So no, this is the problem. We don't have an archbishop. This is the problem. We don't have an archbishop. He's a member of this group. And he's being told what to do. So that's my take, and I'm sticking to it.